Welcome back to the ESPN Hoops and Hits podcast presented by Tab. I'm Scope, joined by my man Grub.
How are you, brother?
Oh, I am really well, mate. We've got a big week happening. There's good, there's bad things happening. So let's get straight into the show, eh?
Let's do it, man.
Huge news. An NFL coach was sacked. But it's not the one you were hoping. Sirianni, your own coach.
Yeah, he's still there.
We got Robert Saleh sacked from the New York Jets. Last week, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the odds. We thought it was going to be Dougie P that was going to be gone from the Jacksonville Jaguars. They lose again, and he's safe. But Robert Saleh's the one to go from New York.
I reckon we're going to disagree on this one. I've got a feeling.
Okay.
I can't wait to talk about it. We're talking about it in the style,
Talk about my man Rodgers?
Yes.
All right, sweet. Major League Baseball is heating up. We've got the Dodgers hosting the Mets, and then we've got the Guardians taking on the Yankees. Could be looking at an all New York sort of final.
Yeah, how good would that be?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Awesome.
WNBA finals. I know you love the WNBA talk. We've got NFC North, best division in the league. I've been saying that since we started the show, but now you're aware of it. And I know, are we going to talk about the East as well, or we leave the East alone?
Yeah, let's leave it. Yeah.
And Kyrie Irving, a boomer. So let's get straight into that.
Yeah,
let's get straight into Left on Red. This is where we rely on the people to provide what we're about to talk about. And this one is the perfect way to start. So this one comes from Instagram from CMath44. If he wants to play for his country of birth, then nobody should stand in his way. So this is off the back of Kyrie Irving hinting at playing for the Boomers. Would you like to see Kyrie play for the green and gold?
First thing first, Hoz, how good would this be for Australian basketball? Like we were saying before, by the time he might be a boomer, he'll be 35. So he's on his way.
As in an Olympic boomer.
As an Olympic boomer, sorry.
Yep.
So for me, why not? He was born here. Some people say he's not very Australian, but I just think we've had some great players play for Australia.
Yep.
Patty Mills, Ingles, but
we're sort of on the back of that really good era. Like Bogut was really prominent for a while. Even though he didn't play as much for Australia, Paddy represented Australia better than anyone. Joe Ingles, super underrated. But you're right. Some of those guys are starting to get a bit older, and there's a new era coming through with Giddey and the like.
A new bit of new blood, you could say, even though he is at the back end of his career. But Hoz, I want to ask you, if he comes in, let's just say he comes in and plays, do we compete with the likes of Serbia and France, do you think?
Oh, I think France are in a little purple patch as well. You got USA.
Yep.
I think France are a team on the rise, and I think they're going to be good for a while off the back of their boom rookies. Not only Victor, but the two rookies that come in this year as well. We're yet to see what they can do at the NBA level. But they've always had a lot of talent in France. If I'm looking at Australia and what Australia can do, and it's, it goes back to the bronze medal they won at the Olympics before last. Tradesman-like sort of team. They work hard for each other. But imagine if, in the perfect world, a veteran Kyrie Irving would still be a lot better than any other point guards we're probably going to have in Australia, mixed in with a Josh Giddey type. And if Ben Simmons was somehow able to get fit, stay healthy, and then decide to play for Australia as well, I mean, we're looking at potentially, like you could play Kyrie Irving at like a shooting guard role, Giddey play the facilitator, Ben Simmons can go from, he's more like a power forward now these days, like a point forward. It gives us a lot of options there for Australia. That team would be competing for a silver and bronze, in my opinion.
Do you think, you just spoke about Giddey. Giddey's, in his prime at the moment, and bringing in someone, like Irving. I feel us being Aussies, we're all team. I feel we're team first, and I think we could actually do it. I think on the reverse, if this was happening going into Team USA, I don't think they'd be for it.
That's interesting.
You know what I'm saying? I just think us as Aussies, we're team first. I really feel in a lot of Australian sports, but with Americans, it's all about it's about me and it's about us, not necessarily as a team.
The reason I like this more so at this point of his career with Kyrie, I think that would have been maybe the case when he was younger. The way he's been able to adapt his game with playing with Luka Doncic at Dallas in the last couple of years show that there's maturity there from Kyrie. And I think he would be the perfect sort of, at this point of his career, a number two to Giddey. And I think you really go all in at Giddey. And I'm excited to see what Giddey can do at the Chicago Bulls this year.
Yeah.
Because he was part of that big trade with the Chicago Bulls and Oklahoma City Thunder too.
I think he's only going to grow this year for me, Giddey.
Yeah.
Being in a team like the Bulls, He obviously has to be the man, and I think it'll help us as Boomers as well. You know, when he comes back, it'll just show the growth and help us as a team. But look, I'm all for it. Bring him on.
Yeah, I love it.
Green and gold all the way, mate.
I think we both agreed. You said we weren't going to agree on the Jets, but we agree on the green and gold. All right, let's go from the NBA to the WNBA. And producer Shabs has put this down. Entering Friday, WNBA teams were 0 and from 183 times, so never happened before in the playoffs, when trailing by 15 or more in the final 5 minutes of regulation, and the Lynx happened. It's heating up, the WNBA finals.
It's on, mate. And the thing is, for me, the Lynx, at the start of the year, they were about 19 and 21. They were going pretty poor, but they've just come back. But that's what championship teams do for me. They've got the likes of Collier, McBride, and they've got some awesome 3-point shooters. And they've got that team chemistry, and you can just see they're building and building. For the Liberty, on the other hand, I should ask you a question. I read the Liberty every time they say last year's final series, it's fueling the fire for us. Fueling the fire is great. It's awesome. Before the game, we can talk about what we've done in the last series and this and that. But I think when it comes to the game and it comes to the moment, the fueling the fire goes out the window. So that's where I feel the bigger players, the better players, and at that moment are better. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I know what you mean by that. So, that stuff can be used before the games to give you a little bit of motivation. But once it gets to the fourth quarter, it's about the personnel. It's about executing at a high level. And the experience of being in there last year for sure will help. Let's move on. But this is going to the Hall of Fame. And this one comes from Instagram. And this is from Nicole in France. Well done to Michele. And definitely agree, well deserved. So this is off the back of Michele Timms inducted into the Namath Basketball Hall of Fame. A couple of big names for the men as well. We had Chauncey Billups getting in. Jerry West. I would assume that Jerry West was always in the Hall of Fame. So congratulations to Aussie Michele.
Yeah, mate, amazing. And sort of just I love seeing her when she was up there. She was up there with Teresa Edwards, one of the best point guards of her time. Said how she loved to do battles with her. She's already in the Hall of Fame as well. But it was just, she mentioned she was an orphan. I didn't know that. I thought it was quite interesting. She just said her parents that picked her up were instilled in her that hard work and dedication can get you to the top. And I just love, it just looked very Australian. I was very proud. She thanked everyone else but herself. And mate, she's an all-star. She was a part of the inaugural Phoenix team, and it was just good to see. It was a moment I sat there and I said, you know what, that's on the big stage, mate. That's the Hall of Fame in America, where NBA and basketball is huge. And we've got an Australia representing us there, and it was proud to watch.
Joining Lauren Jackson as well. The one thing I love about what we get to see with the women's sports, whether it's in any sport, is when you start comparing errors for men, for example, you can go back and you can go all the way back to the 60s, 70s, and we don't have film of it.
Yeah.
Whereas with the women, because the professional sports took a little bit longer to get going and it's more prevalent now, you can actually go back and go, oh, we can compare errors. Like the errors weren't that far away, where you can actually start comparing stats from some of the OGs, from whatever sports it may be, to what we're seeing right now. And I think that's the cool part and the cool little spot we're in with women's sports right now.
And we've seen it, you see it in the NRL and now with the women's NRL. And when they get awards, they always speak about women who paved the way.
Pioneers.
It's obviously a bit harder for the women. Men's sport's been around for many years, so is women's. But on the big stage, they're working their way up, and it's nice to see that they thank those people, because it is like a lot of these women now. You even see it in our game. They've got kids, they're working jobs, and they're still performing at the professional level at the top of their ability. You got to take your hat off to them. So it's good to see them, constantly thanking the people who've gone before.
Getting recognition as well. Yeah, well done to Michele, Aussie Michele. Let's move on to the Lakers, Timberwolves, and Celtics, Knicks kicking off the NBA season. I want to get a way too early season prediction. Who makes the finals?
So makes the finals?
Makes the finals. Who do you think is going to be representing the East? Who do you think is going to be representing the West?
I definitely think Boston. I just think Boston will go back to back. I don't know. It's a big call. It hasn't been done since the 2017 Warriors team. But I just think any team that's got Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, you throw in Holiday and Porzingis, I just think they've found their groove. I read the other day that Brown and Tatum had played in 107 championship games, the most of any two players without winning a chip, but now they've got one. I just think that's going to give them that confidence.
Take the pressure off.
I just think, yeah, and when I hear Holiday speak, he's come into that team, and it's like I don't know what it is. He's had an effect on all those boys.
Super respected amongst the league.
Super respected, and you can just feel that. So I just feel now they're in that patch. They're confident. They know what's coming. But then I suppose, Hodge, you look at a team like the Knicks, and they've brought Towns, and they've got Bridges there also. We speak about who's going to be the man there. What do you reckon? I just think with the Knicks, it's like they've got this amazing team, and they put them all together. But sometimes it doesn't glue, and I feel sometimes that'll take a bit of getting used to. But if that happens fast, they're going to be a threat. I really think so. So for me, I think it's going to be, I think it could be Knicks and Boston.
All right, so that's your pick for the East. You've got the Knicks versus the Celtics going into it. By the way, you've left my Heat out, who my pick, by the way. You've got to remember, we didn't have Jimmy Butler at the end of last year, and we've always done really well against Celtics when it comes to finals time. So I like my Heat to represent the Eastern Conference. Who do you like to come out of the series between the Knicks and the Celtics?
Can I just say, I've just watched Jimmy Butler on that Netflix series. What an interesting guy.
Yeah, he's a different cat, isn't he?
He went to one of the media days dressed as a punk rocker.
So that's what his thing is for the last couple of years, because it's got the media day. He wears something outlandish to start the season, and then obviously that pitch comes up all the way throughout the year. So he's a funny little character, Jimmy Butler.
He's playing games.
I hope we extend him. I love him. I think he's one of those guys that if you love your basketball, if you like what basketball stands for, then you appreciate Jimmy Butler, because he does it all. He is team first, and I like our team. It's not just because I go for the Heat. I think we've got a good chance this year. So some really good teams. Who do you like in Knicks and Celtics come out of the East?
I'll say Celtics.
Celtics?
Yep.
All right. On the West?
I'm going to say I like Denver. I really do. I just think they're solid. I think with Jokic, they're just a well-rounded team. And I think it's a hard one. I don't know OKC or Mavs, but I think it might be the Mavs year. You spoke about before. Doncic, I just think we're speaking about MVPs later. There's a hint.
Okay.
But I just think it's his time.
Yeah.
There's been years and years of Nelly getting there. But yeah, I think that it'll be between Mavs and Denver. All
right, hard one for the West, super competitive. I can't fault you on picking the Mavs. I think Nugs are going to be thereabouts. Really good, young, up-and-coming Thunder team that have made some really nice moves as well. But, man, I am all in on just not only the team but the person. And I'm on Ant Edwards. I love what he's about. I think he's got that dog in him. Yeah. I love the addition of Randall and DiVincenzo to go with Rudy Gobert, who's it's Ant's team now, and I think he's going to put up some pretty big numbers. So there's maybe a little teaser for later on as well. So I got the Timberwolves taking on the Heat in the finals. Speaking of the Heat, it's heating up in the Major League Baseball as well. We're into the playoffs to see who goes into the World Series. This one comes from Rich Mate, I believe that is. Please, MLB, give the fans a New York World Series. You want to see that? You want to see Mets Yankees? Where are you going with this?
I'd like to see Yankees Dodgers.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think
East Coast, West Coast feel.
Yeah. And then you're definitely going to have any problems promoting this one, mate. You got Judge, Ohtani. We've been speaking about him on the show. Betts. It's the Yankees haven't won in, I think it's about 15 years. Dodgers about 30 years. Even that when they did win it last, it was very questionable. But yeah, for the Yankees, I think Aaron Judge. There's always a narrative around his postseason hitting, and it's not even that bad. But I think it's just people
the standard that he sets in the regular season,
and that's what it is. Yeah. But it's probably uncalled for. Their pitcher, Carlos Rodon, he's got an X factor. He's throwing that slider at 98 miles per hour. That's scary. I seen one the other day. It's unhittable. I don't care what anyone says. It's unhittable. And then, for the Dodgers, it's just Ohtani. Yep. He's just got to step up. He's the best player in the world. I feel the Dodgers this year, they've been very resilient. They haven't been great, and I feel they've just got here. But I feel that they're coming up against the Mets at the moment, who I think are playing good baseball, so they will struggle. But I would like to see Yankees-Dodgers.
New York. Yeah, that's super appealing, but I love the East Coast versus West Coast, LA versus New York. No matter what sport it is, I'm all for it, so I'm with you. Let's go the Dodgers versus the Yankees. Producer Shabs has got this one too. This was a giggle. I've seen this throughout the week. Someone's taken a shot at Sydney Sweeney. So, College Gameday, they've become really famous for the signs that they have. Pat McAfee does a great show and building out that show. And Sydney Sweeney had even seen it herself. We've got the meme up here, and it's the reaction from Sydney Sweeney on her Instagram. Is this one of the most unique ways to have a crack at a celebrity? And it worked too, by the way.
I will tell you what, Oz. This bloke, whoever he is, I take my hat off to him, literally. He doesn't worry about Tinder or anything, mate. He's just straight on there.
I don't think Sydney Sweeney's on Tinder too, by the way. She might have the upgraded one.
High standards, but I love these signs. I actually done a little bit of research, mate. I picked out my three of my funniest I've seen.
What do you got for us?
So I've got married to. This is my topic. My topic is married to the game. Yep. We missed our honeymoon for this.
Yep. Okay.
So I like that. Yep. That's dedication.
Yep.
I skipped my court date for this.
Oh, that's going to get you in some dramas.
It's an interesting one. Yeah. Oregon have 7,000 uniform changes, but 0 titles.
Oh, okay.
Rich program.
Yeah, I like it. Actually, I love their kits too, by the way.
Awesome kits.
That all green kit with the shiny helmets, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and then my last one, driving on Highway 77 is harder than Miami's schedule.
There's some good ones.
I like it.
I love it. Listen, I wish we had sort of, that when you compare what College Gameday provides and why it's so big, and we talk about it all the time, that's just another little wrinkle in what makes, tailgating, the College Gameday experience, the family tradition and the rivalries.
Do you think we could bring it to Australia? Any of that stuff? Like it just doesn't. It's not the same path, is it?
No.
Like we don't have colleges or, not everyone goes to uni and like who we representing.
Yeah.
Sydney Uni or TAFE New South Wales. I'd be TAFE New South Wales, man.
It's such a unique experience that, it's very hard to do anything like that and drafts over in our system that would be as popular that they've got over there. I'll tell you who is popular, though, and let's roll into the NFC North. All 4 of the teams are traveling at the moment. This one comes from Ethan Renissing. The Packers, last where they belong, which is a stab. Ethan, you won't be invited back to Hoops and Hits again, too, by the way.
I'm a big fan of
Ethan. Every team is 2 games over 500 in the NFC North, the best division in the league at the moment. Who makes it in the playoffs? With the new system, potentially all 4 could make it into the playoffs.
Yep.
How many do you think get in, and which teams do you think get in?
Okay, so even though the Packers are at the bottom, I don't like to say this, so I like to create this bit of, I just think they look good. They're leading 24-0 at, they started 24-0. Love had, I think someone said, I don't know if it was Love or someone said he had enough time to bake a pizza in the pocket. That's how much time he had in the pocket, but it's their defense as well. 17 takeaways. They only had 18 last year. Do you know one thing I see with the Packers? They're always stripping for the ball more than anyone else. I don't know if it's like one of their things that they do. You see a couple of teams, but I just feel they're always trying to go for the takeaway. And for me, the Vikings, I'm one of the people, I'm waiting for them to fall.
Yep.
I really am.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
And not just because, not because I'm biased. I just think they do have some holes in that team. They're playing really well. Sam Darnold has done a great job. They get the bye to refresh. So it'll be interesting to see how they come off the bye, though.
They play the Lions this week. Big game.
Huge game.
Big rivalry.
Just lost Aiden Hutchinson for the Lions as well. That's huge. He's one of the best already. Third year in, one of the best defensive players in the NFL. And
then sometimes you hear players speak about someone like Hutchinson. He's the glue. So losing someone like that, even if he's a great player, but sometimes even if it's not about on field, it's about all the off the field stuff.
Locker room presence.
And I think they'll lose that. The Bears, they're growing in confidence, mate. Caleb Williams had his best game on the weekend. He's still got a couple of sloppy moments, so they're a bit hot and cold for me. So I think they'll probably be the one that drop.
I'm worried about the Bears next year.
Yeah, okay.
I think they've got a good team. I think Caleb Williams is going to be a superstar in this league eventually. I think he's going to go through some rookie errors. But yeah, the team I worry about the most is the Lions, in saying that, losing their star defensive player, where in years past, that's sort of been their problem. Their offense has been hot for the last couple of years. Very hard to stop their offense, but you could also score on them. And when you're missing your premier edge defender, who could change the game with a couple of big sacks, I think it really does make that more of an intriguing battle when we play them. Whereas I think I would have had, bias aside, Detroit 1, us 2. And then I really can't split the Vikings and Bears. I think they're probably 1 year away, both respectfully.
I'll go Utes. I really think you'll come back and win it. And then I will go Lions, Vikings, Bears. But talking about this, it's just, I feel it is such an open race this year. Like we talk about it, like the AFC North, you've got the Ravens and the Steelers going well. You speak about the South, the Falcons and the Bucks and the Saints all going okay. But if you sat here and asked me right now, who do I think is going to win it? I actually wouldn't be able to tell you.
Yeah,
I don't know who's setting the standard because they're so up and down. But if I had to say someone, and I've sort of said it from the start, I think the Ravens on their day,
like the Ravens,
they can beat anyone. Yeah,
just the one little slip up against the Chiefs so far, I believe. So the Chiefs are going to be very hard. They're going to have that presence like you talked about early on with the Celtics, where they've been there, they've done it. The pressure's going to be on the other teams to beat them in big moments. Even if you're the offense, when you're on the bench and you're looking over, Patrick Mahomes is working up the field. It's still going to be that mental battle that anyone who goes up against them, whether it be in the AFC against them or if someone is lucky enough to come out of the NFC and take them on in the Super Bowl, I still think that is going to be the biggest hurdle, I think, mentally to beat the Chiefs, knowing that they're back-to-back champs.
Well, as you know, we play professional sport, especially in big games, in semi-finals and stuff. I don't care who you are. If you're sitting there, you're a young team. Like the Packers, they're a very young team, but they're coming up against...
The youngest team.
The youngest team. But they're coming up against Paddy. It's in their head. Whether they like it or not, it's there.
It's almost better to be the youngest, though, than maybe a little bit more experience, because you can go in that with that naivety that, where we could be the ones to knock it off. Whereas I think it's harder for those teams that maybe have been thereabouts for a while. You think about the Ravens. Yes. You think about the Bengals. You think about the Bills. All these teams that are in their conference that have always come up against them and just fallen a little bit short. So I think they're the teams that could struggle, where I think if there is a positive to what we're doing at the Green Bay Packers with the young team, playing with house money on our side of it.
Yeah, it's actually a really good call, because you're right. There is pressure on Lamar because he MVP, and if you're MVP, you should be with the comp. You've got Derek now. You've got so many weapons. It's funny when you get into that pointy season, and that's why the Chiefs are so good, because they go to another level in the postseason.
So this is how much we're talking about the Chiefs. We started talking about NFC North, ended up all the way over the Chiefs for a couple of minutes. It's time to get to the stalemate. This is where producer Shabs puts it to the fans. So this is off the back of the Sulla news that we talked about right at the top of the show. Do quarterbacks have too much power? And I think what Shabs is alluding to here is that my man Rodgers had something to do with what happened with Sulla. And I'm not a fan of this. And I think the Instagram followers, they're split. That's 50-50 on Twitter. 84% think that maybe Rodgers had a bit to do with this and quarterbacks have too much power. What do you think?
You know what I'm slowly getting a gauge on, Hoz? Twitter knows. Every time Twitter gets it right, mate. And they've got it right.
Twitter's aggressive.
And they know. They speak their mind. So the Twitter's fans, I agree with you, is 100 and I don't even know, not even 100%, 1,000% Rodgers has had an impact on this. You're trying to tell me that a guy like Rodgers comes in, his personality, he demands it. I just know that he'd be having a conversation with the GM and the owner. He had a conversation with him the night before.
Yeah, but he did come out and say that he did not talk about Sulla, even though it was half a day before, just breaking down the game. He's just having a chat with his good mate Woody Johnson, who just happens to be the owner. You think something suspect happened in that phone call?
Nothing. You don't think there was one comment. The Sulla, the cuddle, the infamous cuddle. Like he
said he's not a big hugger.
Yeah. Well, you can't push him off on national television, mate. I don't know about you, but I hate rejection. But I actually find this such a interesting conversation, because clearly we know it happens. But you know what I think sometimes, Hoz? Let's talk about the Eagles. Sirianni and Hurts. There's tension there, right? As a player, how does Hurts approach this? Let's just say he wants to speak to the GM and the owner, right? I don't think Hurts is a big enough dog yet to be able to go behind his back without it getting back to the coach.
Agreed.
That's just at the moment. But okay, let's just say Rodgers or Tom Brady comes up to you.
Yep.
You know he's an amazing player. You know he's one of the best ever.
Yep.
Then what do you think happens?
I don't like it either way.
Yep.
I'm not a big fan of it, and I'm not a big fan of it in any sports. But I do think, particularly in the NFL, with how important the quarterback position is, if you have the runs on the board, you're a 10-year vet, a 10-year starter, you've won Super Bowl, you've proven that you can go all the way to the end. And even if you're like Patty Mahomes, I don't think he might slightly be away from 10, but he's clearly he would definitely be allowed to have a voice with regards to roster. The coach thing's always hard. Like
it's hard,
it's a very hard predicament. You never want players talking out against the coaches. In saying that, players want to be great. They want to be held accountable. And if they're not getting held accountable, if players aren't getting held accountable, if you're watching other teams develop and build and you feel like you're not going anywhere, then it puts the players in a real predicament.
Where I feel they get it wrong, Hoz, sometimes is, you get these quarterbacks, right, that think they're the man. They get the big money. I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence, an example, right? He's on the big money. He's not performing, but he might go, you know what, I think it's the coach. So what he does, but then what these, what the GMs and the owners have got to understand is, you pick this coach. You brought him in, right? He's there to set standards every day. He's there to set non-negotiables. Just because the quarterback doesn't like that at that time, and it's not what sits right with him, it doesn't mean it's right. So that's where I feel sometimes they got to push back and they got to say, no, mate, we've got this guy here for a reason. We know you're our quarterback and you're our guy, but at the moment, you got to listen to him and the direction he's going in. But I do feel it's hard for the coach because you think, Hoz, you know how it works, mate. Sometimes, we spoke about it before, in dressing rooms, the quarterback can get around, probably have better relationships with every group.
Like any senior player of any sport.
Exactly, and that's why it's so different to us here, Hoz, isn't it? Because you think, right, there's always a senior player group in rugby league. But with the senior player group, even if you're going to approach the board or the CEO, you've got to go through levels. There's not one owner. One owner makes the final call a lot of the time in the NFL.
Yes,
let's face it.
Agreed.
But with the NFL, you've got to go through NRL, you've got to go through stages, and it's just that little bit harder. But I hate it. I really dislike it. So,
well, this one comes from Instagram. This is a comment on it, and this comes from Tiana Maritani. It makes sense. It's the most important position on the field, but I think it does matter with regards to reps as well. The second one comes from Samuel Largi. This one, yes, just look at the Jets situation. How have they fired Salah and not Nathaniel Hackett? So there's layers to it. So it's not only the head coach. We've got offensive coaches, and there's so many other layers that go on in the NFL. That's just, you can't compare it to any other sport.
Hackett's your man, isn't he?
Hackett is not my man. Hackett is not my man. As a proud Packers man, I am happy that he is was the offensive coordinator for the Jets.
I may have knew that.
Speaking of duds, it's time for studs and duds. Let's get off Hackett and let's move on to our fantasy teams. And I've got a stat here from ESPN Fantasy. Undefeated in fantasy is impressive. 4.7% of fantasy football teams are undefeated after week 5. So I guess that's redraft as well. I'm undefeated in 2 leagues, but it's a little bit of not a cheat, but they're dynasty leagues where there's tanking, giving away draft picks, for example. So some teams aren't competing week to week like you do in redraft. But 4.7%. Are you in the 4.7, mate?
I'm far from it, mate. I'm struggling. I'm not going to lie. I won on the weekend because the guy I played had two plays with the bye, and I don't think he knows how to sub him out. And I may or may not have told him.
Yeah, you leave that through to the keeper. There's no way you bring it up.
It's not up to me. But one guy I'm going to mention I had him on the bench, Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah, you had Tyrone Tracy. Yeah.
He had a big game. He had about 17 carries, 22 fantasy points. So he might be getting the call up this week.
You reckon he continues to play even when Singletary gets back?
Well, if he keeps playing like that, because he's a catch threat as well.
Yeah,
he catches the ball as well. But
he's an ex-wide receiver, you know that. Tracy, he last year at college, they turned him into a running back at Purdue, and he had a great he's had 2 really good games now. By the way, you didn't have the undrafted free agent out of Syracuse last year, and Sean Tucker, who led the NFL fantasy as the best fantasy player.
Unbelievable, mate.
No one had him. That's a good thing about it. No one would have had them a part of their roster. Going into this week, I needed a win. My last game, Monday Night Footy, Braylon Allen, I needed 7 points. I think he got 1 or 2 of the best. He didn't get the job done. So there's my dud for this week. That would have got me to 500 in redraft. A very competitive league. So I'm still sitting in 7th out of 12, just on the outside of finals.
You know, he's making my blood boil. Amari Cooper, and it's not his fault. He's just in a very.
You've been off Amari Cooper a couple of times on this show.
Well, yeah, but like he's the alpha receiver, but he just doesn't get the ball because
he doesn't have an alpha quarterback. That's the problem.
And that's the thing, though. But then I sit there and think, don't talk too much because we beat the Browns by 4 points. So let's move on from that.
All right, let's move on to some positivity. Let's get to the pick 6 presented by Tab.
Oh yeah.
Have a look at this from Cynthia. Perfect round. 6 of the best. 6 from 6. We had the Bears over the Jags. That was comfortable. That was in London. She had the Eagles over the Browns. Not so confident. That you would have been confident as an Eagles fan. My Packers over the Cardinals. They did that really well. Texans did it pretty easily against the Patriots. Rookie quarterback Drake May in that game. Falcons were too good for the Panthers in a division rival game. And the Bengals, I wouldn't say it was convincing, but they get the job done against the Giants right at the death. And Cynthia goes 6 from 6. So let's see if she can back it up for week 7.
What is up, Grub and Horo? We need to continue this pick 6 success. Let's go for 6 more here in week 7. Number 1, the Jags against the Patriots. That is all the way over in London. The Bills hosting the Titans. The Eagles at New York, as in the Giants. The Bengals in Cleveland to face the Browns. The Rams over the Raiders. And the Commanders at home over the Panthers.
Oh, there we go. So the tips were Jags at home to the Pats, Bills at home to the Titans, Eagles away to the Giants, Bengals away to the Browns, Rams at home to the Raiders, and Commanders at home to the Panthers. Before we get to what we're going to add to this as well, I think Cynthia's might have had a little bit on her tips for the weekend because that backdrop just improved and looks like she's got a nice little backyard there. She must be winning some cash.
Well, there was a juicy $8.
Yeah.
So Cynthia's just said, you know what?
Cynthia splurged.
I'm on the market. Look at that. Look at that background. Where
Beautiful backdrop.
Yeah,
she's on fire at the moment, Cynthia. She went 5 from 6 the week before, 6 from 6 this week. And any of those tips that you like any more other than the others, or are you happy with all 6 of those and you're happy to back Cynthia?
I like it. You know what? How can I disagree? I'm on the train. I'm on the Cynthia train. The only one that scares me, and I'm just going to be brutally honest here, Eagles, you better beat the Giants.
Division game. Giants are better than what people are giving them credit for this year.
Absolutely.
All right, let's add our 2 picks for this week, and we are going to go by the time we film next week's episode. The game will be on the Wednesday, so we're going to give our tips for next week, and we have gone. I went the West, so I've got the Timberwolves to beat the Lakers in the West with Ann Edwards, and you've gone.
I've gone the Celtics
to beat the Knicks.
I think this. It's going to be. It's hard that we were talking about it before the show, mate. It's hard at the start of the season. Injuries. You know, you speak about the Knicks. They're a new team. They could fire straight away. They might fire straight up, but you just don't know. So it's going to be great either way.
As I think the Timberwolves are going to be better than the Lakers this year. It does scare me that we're playing the Lakers week because when you think about the triple OG and LeBron James has been there and played so many opening day games in his career, this is probably the worst time to play the Lakers when he's fresh. Yeah. Fatigue will set in. He's older. He's 40 plus. He's going to want to play for Bronny. And we talked about Shams last week. There are reports that we are going to see Bronny and LeBron as early as game 1. They want to get it out of the way as quickly as possible. So I can't wait for that next week. But I think the Timberwolves beat them.
Wait, let's talk about the Lakers just quickly.
Go on.
How hard would it be? Because look, LeBron is still good. He still can play the game. But surely they got to think about life after LeBron while he's still there. I feel saying that to LeBron, he'd be like, "No, get out of here! Like I'm still the man." But
don't worry, I think LeBron's still trying to make moves.
Yeah.
And trying to get them. Yeah. They've tried. They've just lacked pieces over the years. They traded so much away to get Anthony Davis, so it hasn't left them much wiggle room at all to make any genuine moves. And free agents, despite what I say about him and being a hater, I think there are players that shy away from playing with LeBron because of the pressure that's associated with LeBron. So if you don't perform, if the Lakers don't go well in a playoffs, it's AD's fault.
Yeah, absolutely. I know what you mean.
It's always back at the Miami Heat, it was Chris Bosh's fault. That's the way that it's viewed. So I think superstars have shied away from teaming up with LeBron over the years.
And he'd keep you so accountable, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. You got someone there like Austin Reeves, 26 years old, playing some good ball, but you can just tell that LeBron is so hard on them all there. But that's good. I feel that's good, but it would still, you're right, it would shy you away from being the supposed man. But yeah, I just had to think about it. Like, surely they got to, when's he going to retire? Like, it's got to come soon, and the Lakers are in a bit of a tough position.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
All right, Grub, before we get to the end of the show, it's in the name. Grub or no grub. We didn't judge Aaron Rodgers whether he did or did not get rid of Salah. So are you giving Rodgers a grub or no grub? Be careful, mate. He's my favourite quarterback of all time.
Well, mate, I can see it in his eyes. I see the way he played today. He was poor. He's a grub.
What a way to finish. Guys, we'll see you next week. Remember, you can get us on all the socials. Interact with us. Get involved. I don't know if I'll be with him next week after that call.